So guys, I found it interesting. First, I want to ask you, John, because you did the same thing yesterday. You asked your callers, you asked for people to call in who were in support of the alleged perpetrators. What happened?
I don't know. I don't know that anybody's in support of the perpetrators. I think there might be people out there who feel that either the students shouldn't have been charged, or at the very least the administration should have been charged along with the students, but nobody called. I'm sure they're a very small minority, and whether or not they're willing to step out and identify themselves, it didn't seem so then.
Mike, why do you think that is? What's going on here? I mean, there clearly is overwhelming support for either the family and sympathy for Phoebe Prince and her family, but also there seems to be an overwhelming feeling that these kids should have been charged.
Well, I think the reason why is I think a lot of people were bullied themselves. They know what it feels like. They know the ramifications of it. I mean, a suicide, is certainly an extreme, reaction to bullying. But I mean, how many people out there are suffering from, traumatic depression or alcohol or drug abuse based on the kind of abuse they took when they were young?
What's going on here? I mean, when I asked you, is this something you've been talking about ad nauseum?
A lot. We've been talking to listeners. We've been talking to experts. We've been talking to anti-bullying experts for the last several months. I mean, since this story broke, we've been talking about it because we know what it's like to have been bullied as kids, and it's a very, very serious problem in every school system in the country.
Go ahead, John.
Actually, we've been talking about it for even longer than that because we have the unfortunate position in this market of having had 2 students take their lives in less than a year. A Springfield boy did the same thing also because he was bullied. So it's not a very nice distinction to have, but we've got 2 of the closest. Two of the closest, and it seems to be, I don't think it's any more prevalent in this market, but it certainly seems to have the worst results in this area.
And I guess this goes without saying, but this is this just front of mind for everyone here, Mike?
I think, well, especially now that indictments have been announced, I think, yeah, a lot of people are now talking about it, and schools are talking about it more. I know my kids go to school in the area, and certainly those discussions have happened there. But anti-bullying has been talked about for months here, and especially since the Phoebe Prince story.
John, since the indictments have come down, has this reopened the wounds again? I mean, there was that sort of flashpoint of anger and outrage when Phoebe Prince committed suicide, but now with the indictments, it feels like people are reliving it again.
I don't know that it ever closed. It's been 10 weeks. It was 10 weeks between her suicide and the indictments, but it was a good 10 weeks of people screaming and yelling, when is something going to be done? Why aren't we seeing any results? Because the school wasn't admitting that they had disciplined any of the students. The police weren't saying where they were in their investigation. But I don't think it ever fell far enough into the background where this reignited it. This simply, I think, finally put some kind of a closure on it, but not completely closed because people want more.
John, I'm going to ask you to just talk to me, not to camera. Yeah, okay. I think that's it, unless there's anything else you want to add. I mean, is it, you've been doing this for a long time. Has there ever been a story that has sort of touched the community in the way that this has? I mean, this is really something that a lot of people are paying attention to. There just seems to be so many outrageous aspects to this story.
I think this touches people in a much different way than a lot of stories that we've covered. I don't want to say that it's touched them more or less, but just differently.
Why?
Because I think there is a personal connection that people have with bullying. When the story first broke, there was a lot of community meetings that were set up, a lot of outrage, a lot of vigils that were set in motion. And the thing that I noticed, it wasn't just people sitting down talking about it calmly. These are people who were furious, and furious not just that a tragedy occurred with Phoebe Prince, but real bitter hostility and anger that the school system allowed this to happen and fall through the cracks, and all of a sudden you have a girl who's dead, and a school system that didn't seem to react in a way that I think parents were hoping that their school system.
I talked to a parent last night who said it just makes everyone in the community question, what could I have done? Could I have done something? This is a tight-knit community, isn't it?
Certainly, South Hadley is a tight-knit community. It's a relatively small town, and it's not it's not an unaffluent area. It's actually a very nice town. But yeah, I mean, people are really caught off guard by this.
Yeah, John, a lot of people have said to me, a lot of parents have said, this, the sad thing is that beyond this tragedy of this girl committing suicide and the bullying and the indictments and the administrator seemingly turning away and turning a blind eye to this, the sort of the fallout and the second tragedy is that it's torn this community apart because people are having to choose sides, and they are choosing sides, and it's putting a lot of people in a difficult position. Have you heard sort of rumblings about this at all?
I think a lot of people are going to choose sides in a story no matter what the story is. I think thankfully most people have taken the side of Phoebe in this, and they believe that something needs to be done. The division is whether it should have been done against the bullies or whether it should have been done against the school and the administrators. But there does seem to be a lot of unity that something needs to be done and not enough was done.
And something, and that somebody needs to be, and that somebody needs to be held accountable, right?
Well, I think the school system has to be held accountable, and certainly, I think the school has been fearful of what the ramifications would be of admitting, who was involved or what punishments were levied. For weeks, the school would not come clean as for what was actually decided upon.
I mean, the community has all but burned the superintendent and principal in effigy. It's basically almost come to that point.
There's a lot of question as to whether or not they fell back on privacy laws. They tried to say we can't say who these students are,
yeah,
or what this punishment was, and others are saying there are no such laws.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they didn't handle it very well at all.
Yeah.